Hi, welcome to Outlook 2010 Creating Rules. Rules allow you to move information or route information automatically. For example, an automatic response to a request for information email, and assign a category color to all the messages sent only to you, etc. So we're going to learn today how to create rules in Outlook 2010, and I am TrainerLori. Let's say that you just got an email from someone about something that you always get an email about that you really don't care anything about, but you would like to move it into another file for reading later, for example. You simply click on the email that you got and then go to Home, Rules, and on the drop down under Rules it says that you can create a rule based on that. And you have multiple options, and these are called conditions. For example, from that person. In this case, that's not what we want. We want a subject, and the subject contains something that we want to move it into a file just for that. So I simply click the check mark here, and I can choose which folder to move it into. Now, if I want, I have some more options, some advanced options. And in the advanced options, you'll find templates. There are 3 different kinds of templates to choose from: the Stay Organized template, the Stay Up to Date template, and the Start from a Blank rule. We're going to talk about the Stay Organized and then the Start from a Blank rule today. Once you've chosen from step 1 up here, you must go down to step 2 down here. And anything that's blue, that's got the blue underline, the hyperlink, you have to fill in the blank. You have to choose. You have to make some decisions based on that. And when you're done, you click Next. Okay, so in this case, we choose we've selected our template, and then we select our step 2. Let's say that we want to move a message from someone to a folder. So this has 2 options. It has both the condition and the action. So the action is to move, and the condition is from someone. So I want to do one of those, so I come down here and choose the people. For example, you can either open up your Active Directory, or you can choose from the list your contacts, the contacts in your Outlook. So that's a nice option. Let's say I want specific words. So I choose the template, Move Messages, that's an action. With specific words, that's a condition. And then I would choose which words. Now here's something that I found. If I want to look for something simple like registration confirmation, every time I get an email that says registration confirmation, it will automatically move it into my registration confirmation folder. However, if I get a question about Office or Word or Excel, PowerPoint Access, I thought, well, that would work. I'll just write those words down, except nobody ever sends me a message with all those words in the subject line. So what I really meant to do was to add each of them individually. And when I add them individually, it automatically puts in a quotation mark and the word or. So it sets up an or option for me. So that's nice. You just add a word and then say add. Type in a word, say add, and then open. Now, if you have more specific conditions, I want it in a certain kind of situation, then you can go into the Start from a Blank rule. This gives you a lot more options, and it gets a little confusing. This is where a lot of people give up because they don't take the time to read them all. Well, that's okay, I understand. We don't always have a lot of time. But you can see some that are popular would be specific words, either in the body or in the subject, maybe even in the message header, so, or from a specific person, etc. So you can just choose the condition that you want. I mentioned before that is a condition and an action. In other words, I want to choose when, and then I want to choose what. So if I say move messages, that's an action. And so if I say move messages, then I have to say where to a specified folder. Now, if you happen to choose a folder that you don't have yet, then you can create a folder. There's an option for new, so you can go in and try to find the one that you have. If it's not in there, click new, you, give it a name, then say OK, and now you have the folder. So it's nice that you have both options. You can either choose one that you've already created, but if you forgot, you can add it even during the creation of the rule. Now, your third step, you may notice the first thing that we looked at was which condition we want. The second was what action. And the third one was, well, except in this case. Okay, I want you to move all of the emails that are from somebody into this folder, unless if it's only sent to me. If it's only sent to me, it's not a group email, then I want to read that and don't put that in the file folder. So you choose what your exception is. So unless there's something about it, for example, somebody yesterday was asking me how to, she wanted to move all of her boss. She has two bosses she supports. She wanted all their stuff going into a folder, but if it actually had her name in the to line, then she wanted it not to go into that folder. So even though it might have had the other two people, it would also have her in the to line. So in that case, where her name was in the to box. So you have to read through, choose the exception that you want. Then click Next. And then it says, what do you want to call this rule? You're going to be looking at a list of rules later, so it's a good idea to give it some name that helps you identify what it is. You also have multiple options in here. You can run the rule now, so if you already have a whole bunch of emails in your inbox that would be affected by that rule, you might want to go ahead and run it. It takes a couple of minutes, but it's worth it because then you don't have to be moving them and you don't have to go back and try to find them. And also, if you have multiple email accounts, you might want to make sure that create this rule on all accounts is checked. By default, it will turn on the rule. And then we hit finish. And then if you've got a bunch of emails, it might take a few minutes. It'll warn you it's taking a few minutes. But look at this. I had 59 emails moved. Plus all future ones will move automatically. So those were now moved into the corporate info and then to read and then delete. Now in another class we've talked about putting a policy on it so that those emails automatically delete after 30 days. So it's essentially cleaning up my inbox for me. You can also manage your rules once you've created them. That's why you want to give it a good name, because you're going to be seeing a list of them. So under Home Rules, you'll see all Manage Rules and Alerts, and you'll see a list of all your rules. You have multiple options in there. For example, you can change it or rename it. You can also delete a rule. So if you find you don't need one anymore, I just deleted several rules yesterday on the kinds of emails that I'm not getting any more of. And you can change the order of them. You can move them up or down in order. Now, why would you care about that? Well, first let me point out here, this one says client only. I didn't put that in. Outlook put that in for me. So what does that mean and what do I want to change the order? Well, there's two kinds of rules. There's server-based and there's client-only. Server-based means that it runs on the Exchange Mail server even when your Outlook isn't running. And so it happens immediately as soon as the messages are delivered to your inbox. However, a client-only rule, and this warns me that it is a client-only rule, it only runs on my own personal computer, and it will only run while Outlook is running. So that means that any client-only rule is always run second. That's why we have a 1 and a 2 here. So if you want to change the order, because it's going to run that way anyway, it's going to run this first one, then it's going to go through and look for that one, and then it's going to go through and look for that one. So it's going to follow those rules in order, and then it's going to come back to client only. So you might want to just put that in the right order so you can see it, but not necessary. Just know that client only will run last. Here's the biggest thing about rules. They're so easy to make. Now that you know, you can do it right from an email that's already been opened. And so you might get too many of them and you might run out of space. It's all based on space, but approximately you have about 40 to 50 rules. But if you find that you're getting near or over capacity, here's some good rules. For example, keep the names of the rules to 8 characters or less. Use a distribution list instead of each individual person. Determine how many exceptions do you really need on each rule. Maybe you don't need as many as you've got on. Also, for example, I find that I want to keep moving, that should also go into my corporate only folder. And so I keep adding rules. Instead, what I can do is go back and combine them all. Say, okay, this, and this kind should always go into the corporate folder instead of having 5 rules that explain it. Put it all in one. But then make sure you delete those duplicate rules so that you don't have both. And then if you have your out-of-office email messages, which you'll find under File, for example, when you're gone for the holidays or out of the office for some reason, and you send that message, sometimes we want to save them because they are kind of a pain to have to set up. And if you're headed for vacation, you certainly would want to go quickly. But they do store as rules, and so they add. So I try to create them as I need them, and of course delete any that you don't need. Thank you. See you next time.